Drug overdose deaths have hit another record high in the United States, with more than 110,000 people dead in 1 year's time. The U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Michigan, Mark Totten, tells me that one specific drug is a major factor in the continuing rise in deaths, and it's making its way to Michigan from more than 2,000 miles away.
It's largely being driven by one drug, and that is fentanyl, which is highly, highly lethal, and it's showing up in ways where people don't necessarily realize what they're taking. It's showing up in fake pills. A teenager may receive a pill from a friend at a party that is told it's a Xanax. That's a name they recognize.
But it's not Xanax. It's a counterfeit prescription pill laced with fentanyl, a drug so deadly, according to the DEA, that it takes just 2 milligrams to be lethal, and 40% of pills have a potentially fatal dose.
And it can kill them in less than an hour. Let me mention one particular case that we resolved this year. We brought a case, it's United States versus Smith, where there were some drug dealers from Detroit that had established a supply line up through the Mackinac Bridge to feed the Upper Peninsula.
The final of 10 defendants to plead guilty was sentenced to 51 months in prison for her involvement in an operation that the judge said brought a significant amount of drugs to an area that was already so heavily impacted by drug abuse.
Dismantled that whole pipeline, and that's exactly the kind of work that we want to do. We are focused on trying to break apart those pipelines. We're not focused on users. We really want to try to stop the supply lines themselves.
But to do that, Totten has to look beyond Michigan to a transnational drug operation that is able to smuggle drugs across the southern border into the United States and up to northern Michigan.
The drugs that really dominate the landscape right now, meth and fentanyl, are all being produced at scale by the cartels in Mexico, and they're making their way up here.
Totten says he works very closely with local law enforcement agencies, prosecutors, and drug enforcement teams to keep drugs off the street and people alive.